Hey, what's up guys? John here. New York City officially banned Airbnb, where they made it nearly impossible to be a host on Airbnb.
Today marks the first day that New York will start enforcing this new law, which Airbnb says is a de facto ban on Airbnb. So what it says is you have to be present if you're renting out your apartment. You can't just rent out a whole apartment and not be there.
And people look at that and they say, okay, it's just Airbnb, it's not the end of the world. But what's happening is shocking because there's many moving parts behind this Airbnb puzzle, such as federal rent control, where the federal government is going to tell landlords, tell property owners how much they can charge for rent. All of this is working under the same umbrella. I'm going to show it to you with verifiable facts. I've been talking about this for a very, very long time, saying the last 3 years has been a slow erosion of property rights. And I believe the next couple of years, this is just going to heat up more and more and more. So if you have an environment in which landlords took out massive amounts of debt at record low interest rates, and they have to refinance into an environment where their rents may be capped and insurance and property taxes continue to rise, you're just going to have a situation, a circumstance in which there's going to be a lot of distressed sellers. There's going to be a lot of people that are desperate to get out from underneath their properties. And if you are a new investor and you're looking at this, it's not all bad news. You're able to make a smart, forward-thinking decision based on verifiable facts of what's actually happening. Because how can you win the game if you don't know the rules to the game? In the game right now in real estate, these rules are getting rewritten. I'm going to break it down for you in this video and show you what the blueprint looks like. Literally. Please hit the like button. When you hit the like button, YouTube will share this content to educate other people about what's really going on in the U.S. real estate market. And if you want to fix your credit, we'd love to help you at my company, GreatCreditFast.com. That's GreatCreditFast.com. If you're looking to invest in distressed real estate deals, you're going to need exceptional credit, not the 600 or 500 or low 700s. You're going to want to be 770, 780. You're going to want exceptional credit. If you have one or two issues on your report, don't let it just sit there. One late payment could drop your score upwards of 180 points and sit on your report for 7 years. 7 years, upwards of 180 points for one late payment. Don't let that happen to you. Go to GreatCreditFast.com, book a call below. Take a look at this. The end of Airbnb in New York. Now, these are the new guidelines. It's basically, they call it a de facto ban. This is the guideline. They say that you're not allowed to rent out your property for less than 30 days. Less than 30 days unless you have a permit. And the permits apparently are nearly impossible to get. The only way in which you can get around this is if the host stays with the guest. So you basically become a roommate with them. If they stay for more than 30 days, then they are essentially, they're locked in as a tenant in New York City. And good luck evicting them for low cost. It's going to cost you tens of thousands of dollars to evict a tenant in New York. It's just an expensive landscape and very, very horrible landlord-tenant laws. At least that would be from the opinion of probably a lot of landlords in New York City, especially eviction moratoriums. There were, 2.5 years they had them enacted. So it's a lot better to be a tenant than a landlord. And when you're a landlord in New York and you're looking at this situation, it's a problem because it's not just the Airbnb hosts that are going to be impacted. It's going to be the entire tourism sector. A lot of people bought properties thinking that, hey, I can always Airbnb it. Well, now they can't Airbnb it. And, they're going to have to be responsible for this massive payment. It's going to push a lot of distress in that city. But look at this. So finding a vacation rental in New York City just got harder. Now, connect the dots here on this timeline. It's pretty interesting. So 8:17 a.m., right, today, September 5th. Then, right here, today, this is 5:10 a.m., September 5th, right? So 5:10 a.m., then they drop this 3 hours later. So they mentioned this, boom, then 3 hours later, Airbnb. They said rent control laws on the national level. Biden administration offers a not-so-subtle push. Interesting. As rents close in on a record high, more Americans, including the federal government, are wondering if it's time for national rent control that will regulate rent increases and place restrictions on evictions. In January, the Biden administration announced a blueprint for a renter's bill of rights that encouraged federal government agencies and politicians to help tenants find, afford, and stay in housing. If only people knew about this. Well, if you are subscribed to the channel, you knew about it because I did a video on it right when it came out, talking about this. This is what they're going to be pushing for. And I think that if we have another situation like this is going to be the perfect segue into a large pocket of distress in this economy in which people demand affordable solutions. And that is when this could easily be injected. Right? The blueprint is only a guidance, not law or policy, on types of protections renters need and how to achieve them. The blueprint explains how different agencies can play a role But the one that has drawn attention is the Federal Housing Finance Agency examines ways to limit egregious rent increases. Now imagine, someone can come in and let's say you're selling sandwiches, you're selling anything, and they just come in and say, hey, your prices are egregious, make the sandwiches for free. Right? Well, what are you going to say? Well, cost of turkey is this, cost of bread, cost of mayonnaise, and you'll do the numbers, and if the numbers don't make sense, you're either out of business or you're going to, just deal with the fines, right? So when they're coming in and they're basically saying, okay, the cost of taxes, we're controlling. Their cost of taxes are going to continue to rise. Cost of insurance is going to continue to rise. You're seeing all the problems that are happening in all these different markets, all these fires and floods and all these different problems. Insurance is going to continue to rise, right? So if taxes are going to continue to go up, insurance is going to continue to go up, borrowing costs are going to continue to go up, and then they're telling landlords that, hey, you have to refinance in an environment in which we're going to potentially set rents. It's going to be a problem, right? It's going to be a very, very, very big problem. FHFA's request for public input on renter protections in Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac finance properties received thousands of comments, including from 17 Democrat-led Senator Sherrod Brown, Democrat of Ohio. Their letter asked the FHFA to condition Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac-backed mortgages based on various tenant protections, including limits on egregious rent increases. So if you have one of these mortgages, and they, by the way, have about 70% of the entire market, if you have one of these mortgages, they want to be able to come in there and set the rents for you. Rents have risen 25% or more than $400 since 2019. You think about that though. How much has insurance risen in the last 4 years? How much has taxes risen? How much have utility bills risen? How much has it cost, the cost difference, fixing a property, even just fixing an AC, doing a small repair. In 2018, 2019, you probably get somebody to come out there, fix a small problem, $100, $125. Now you have someone come out there, fix a small problem, $400, $500. Like everything is just much, much more expensive. And in business, when it costs more for the business, they're going to push the cost onto the consumer, right? And so it's interesting how landlords are the big problem, according to this right here. This is whitehouse.gov, White House Blueprint, Renters Bill of Rights, and they literally list everything that they want. The right to organize, where tenants can literally organize and go on strike and go against the landlord, right? It's all these different things: evictions, protections, diversions, relief. They want to basically have like arbitration agreements to where landlords can't just evict; they have to go through an arbitrator, and then that arbitrator then tries to negotiate on behalf of the tenant and landlord. I mean, it's crazy. Things are changing. Times are changing. There's a proven solution to our housing challenges, right? This is coming from president of nonprofit apartment advocate National Multifamily Housing Council. At a state and local level, communities have successfully used zoning changes to encourage the creation of new rental housing communities and financial incentives to reuse dead malls and empty office buildings for more housing, just to name a few. Right? So when you start to look at this, they say that Americans, they're supporting this rent control as a solution. But you start to look at this situation, I believe many people are going to look at this as a massive curveball that left Los Angeles, left San Francisco, left New York City. They left these cities with heavy restriction. They 1031 exchange, meaning they sold their property, they made a gain on the property, they rolled the entire profit into another property in South Florida. They deferred the taxes into the future. They bought a property of like kind, another apartment building, for example, and they have this property. And they're like, hey, I got this property. I bought it for a 3 cap or a 4 cap, meaning if they paid all cash for the deal, it's producing 3 or 4% return. But yet now insurance and taxes are continuing to rise, and borrowing costs went from 3% to 7%, and now they're going to push potentially a federal rent control. What difference does it make if they're in Los Angeles, if they're in San Francisco, if they're in Miami, right? This is going to be the push. I think that this is actually probably going to be, it's not off the table. I think this actually could happen. I don't think it would happen just in one swoop, but I think it's going to be a death of 1,000 cuts for landlords in the short term. After 2 years of elevated inflation, Americans are tapped out. Many can't afford soaring rents, exacerbated by a housing shortage and the need for quick relief. From 2019 to 2021, the share of renters spending more than 30% of their income on housing rose 2.6% to 49%, according to the Joint Center of Housing Studies of Harvard University. America is increasingly becoming a renter nation, yet rent remains unaffordable for millions. Senior housing advocate of Research and Action Institute policy spiking costs and stagnant wages mean that even households with 2 working adults struggle to afford an apartment. Limiting the amount of government agency-backed owners can raise rent each year has the potential to benefit a third of renting households. Well, don't you think it would be more in line to be able for cost, if the state is going to increase taxes, right? If they're going to say, hey, eviction moratorium is in place, rent's not due, it should apply as well for property taxes. If you want to put a limit on the landlord being able to collect rent, that should go directly back to the city, which is imposing all of these policies, right? And the same with the insurance companies. So all of these bodies are working against landlords and property owners. And so I've been saying for quite a little while that I think we're just going to see an uphill battle in the short term for landlords. And when you see CNBC and all these publications saying that institutional investors are going to own 40% of all housing in America, they own 5% of single-family homes now. They're going to increase their position 800% over the next 6 years. These policies are actually going to help that and make that happen. And it's going to happen because a lot of landlords have to refinance into this type of environment. It's going to be a big, big issue. And they're sitting on $5.6 trillion in cash in money market accounts. And they're sitting with just tons and tons and tons of dollars waiting to pounce on distress. And these policies help them dramatically. What do you think about it? Drop below, hit the like button, add me on IG. And if you want to fix your credit, you want to position yourself for the greatest wealth transfer of all time, I think there's going to be opportunity to be made in real estate. I really do. But I don't think it's yet. I think you want to find out what these policies are going to look like, how everything's going to be rewritten, and what the next 6 months are going to look like. If you find an incredible deal today, like our smoking deal, buy it. But I think you're going to see a lot more of those great opportunities in the short term. What do you think? Drop below. Hit the like button, add me on IG, and if you want to fix your credit, you want to position yourself for the greatest wealth transfer of all time, we'd love to help you at my company, GreatCreditFast.com. That's GreatCreditFast.com. If you have late payments, medical bills, charge-offs, foreclosures, bankruptcies, repossessions, you have any negative items in your credit report, book a free strategy session below at GreatCreditFast.com, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.